I'm really delighted to introduce James Vatter, who is an SEO expert. SEO is something that has been a number of people have asked about over the years as a suggested topic for discussion. So I'm really glad to have someone who knows a great deal about it come and talk to you. So I'll hand over to you, James. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, hi everyone, I'm James. You would have seen me listed as from a company called Redico on the website. Redico has since become Gain, so please don't be put off by the aggressive branding. And I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you about SEO in terms of university, university use. So I have 10 years in delivering SEO success for major brands in some really complex and challenging industries. So financial services, travel, retail, healthcare. I'm not one to toot my own horn, but I've got a broad range of experience. So hopefully I can impart some of that to you today. And the reason I was particularly passionate about being asked to give this talk today, or one of the reasons I was really excited to, is because I actually have a master's in literature and philosophy. I continue the research that I started in that in my own time. And just before COVID hit and screwed everyone's plans up, I was actually beginning the process of looking into a PhD program or using my SEO skills in a more, trying to marry the two worlds together. And I think there's definitely some opportunities. So hopefully you get some use out of the session today. But before we sort of get started in earnest, so why visibility matters in higher education more broadly, so outside of just Google, like we're going to be talking about a lot today. You can tell me better than I know myself, but I do know universities produce world-class research and educational content. That's been growing at pace with the advent of the internet, people creating more all the time, not just in a university context, in every real world context. We are inundated with this stuff, and now with AI as well, content production is continuing to go up. But for you guys in particular, you have a few innate advantages that we're going to get to on the next few slides, but it's important to acknowledge the pressure on making high value pages more accessible, more searchable, more visible, especially as people continue to live their lives online, whether that be through Google, social media, AIs and LLMs. There's definitely a sort of emerging discoverability crisis. The link there is actually to an external study that was done about scholarly output versus web engagement or internet engagement. And I think SEO is actually quite well placed to solve some of these challenges. So from a external white paper from Carnegie Higher Ed last year, organic search brought in 46% of all traffic across higher education websites. So 46% of all of the traffic that those higher education websites received was as a result of somebody searching in Google or Bing or DuckDuckGo or any of the other weird and wonderful search engines that are available now. And interestingly, it also drove the highest engagement rate of 61% across higher education websites. So there is an appetite for getting your information in front of people using Google, in front of people using search engines. There's a huge opportunity there. And as I mentioned before, you're actually, as institutions in terms of online presence and SEO specifically, there's a lot of inherent strengths, which hopefully you know about, but if not, then I hope this gives you a bit more confidence for some of the stuff we're going to be talking about later. So Google will find your content extremely valuable because of the breadth of it, because of the quality of it. You produce, whether that's as a university marketing team or through the academics that your institutions employ, you produce original research and publications of the highest caliber because it has to be. You write regularly on news and events that's going on at the university or more broadly. So if we think of a university in London, that provides value to a lot of people. subject experts. They're all employed by universities, and you, as whether you're in the communications team, marketing, you're also experts in your discipline as well. So there's also impact stories and case studies, course information. There's a plethora of things that Google is actively looking for, and you have a really high level of what we call EEAT, experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. That one always gets me. So this is part of Google's quality raters guidelines. So despite, contrary to popular belief, Google is mostly machines and algorithms, but they also have human quality raters. So once a quarter, I think it is, it might be more, it might be less, but they get their army of quality raters to review search engine results pages and websites for specific terms, and they measure them against these 4 pillars. So experience, whether or not the website writing a particular piece of content actually has first-hand experience of what those, what they're talking about, whether they've got the expertise to be doing so, whether they actually have authority to do so, whether other people are listening to them, and whether or not they're trustworthy. So are they telling the truth when they write this content? And again, like all of these are baked into the university as an institution. They are, like you guys, as we'll see on the next slide, the creme de la creme of like reliable, trustworthy, high EEAT content, which is always, or not always, it's typically given priority in Google search results pages. So in terms of the authoritativeness, this is maybe the clearest way I can represent it, and apologies, this is where the abstraction starts. So domain authority is a metric that's developed by a few different third-party tools. I've used the one from Ahrefs, and this measures how likely a website is to rank in search results on a scale from 1 to 100. So 1 is the lowest, 100 is the highest. And this score is based on the quality of links that are pointing to your site from other sites, the trust signals on both your site and the sites pointing towards you, and institutional credibility. So the thing I want you to take away from this is universities compete in the upper end of online authority. This isn't just like within the education sector or within, you know, like this is all websites everywhere globally. Your only real concerns, or the only types of businesses or types of websites that are above you are major corporations, and by that I mean Apple, Google, probably OpenAI now, I'm not entirely sure, and major news publications, so The Guardian, BBC, Reuters. Like, other than that, you know, government websites, tech companies are emerging and breaking into this category as well, but the quality of these sorts of sites and the type of information, especially government websites, have to be able to give. This should, I hope this kind of gives you a bit of optimism and a bit of, you know, energy to take forward some of the stuff I'm going to speak about on the next few slides. So, in short, most websites that I've spent the last 10 years working with and working for, they have spent literal years trying to build what you guys already have. Like, I'm confident that you could put in any of your university's websites URLs into one of the third-party tools that I've used to form this analysis, and you would see strong domain authority. So the problem isn't that, you know, we can make all these changes and optimize your content for search, but nobody's going to see it. They will. So the question then becomes, how do we leverage this? So how do we use your high domain authority and your other high quality trust signals and to surface the premium content quality that is inherently there on your site? And the answer, somewhat biasedly, because I'm an SEO consultant, is search engine optimization, or SEO. So there's kind of two main examples I can think of putting this to work. So the first is in student recruitment and the second is in research visibility. So I'm going to go through those fairly quickly, and hopefully I can leave a little bit of time for Q&As at the end. So in terms of student recruitment, it's important to get an understanding of student search behavior. Again, more and more people are living their lives online. They're, asking AI to choose where to go for dinner, or, putting into Google Maps things, like restaurants near me, all of that stuff. Student search behavior seems to have gone a similar direction. So, and if we think of the very early days of students that are starting to think about what it is they would like to study at university, they will often start with an area of interest, something that they would want to study a bit further, or, that could be computer science, marine biology, marketing, business administration. Like, it will usually start from the subject backwards. So when students have that idea in their heads, that's typically what they will, that could be what they will put into Google or Bing or whatever search engine they're using to find more information out about it and to see what their options are. So for many students, your course pages, your university website, that is a prime opportunity to get in front of people that are looking for the services that you provide. And so, yeah, the data kind of bears this out. So I took the top 1,000 keywords by search volume for all of the potential subject areas that a university could offer, and compared them to institution first keywords. So digital marketing course instead of University of Exeter digital marketing course. And what we can see, even though when we take that data and average it out, the numbers are quite low, we can see that actually subject first discovery searches, those have 10 times the amount of search volume per month than institution first. So yeah, typically there can be students that will have a very set idea on, I want to go to this university to do this course for this reason. But there is still a huge and significant opportunity to attract and to be visible in front of students that know what they want to do, but don't really know where, or don't have a preference on where. So yeah, in terms of UK search volume, that is the number of times the keyword on the left-hand side was searched in the UK on average over the past, I think this data is over the past 15 years. So that doesn't mean 3,200 people searched for computer science degree. It just means that keyword was input that many times. But even so, like, that's still a heck of a lot of people that are looking for that information. So how do we, leverage this interest? Because we can see that there is a lot of interest in our subject matter, in students looking for course options using Google. So the first thing I tend to do is to use Google Search Console, which is a free tool. I would strongly recommend everyone that is interested in SEO get access to their website's Search Console. It is basically a one-stop shop for everything to do with your site in terms of organic search. It gives you insights on where people are searching for your content, number of clicks, so the amount of traffic you receive, and the specific keywords that they arrived at your site through. So yeah, I would strongly recommend that. And in terms of looking for opportunities, what I tend to do with my clients is take everything that they rank for and look for any term that they rank above position 10, so position 11 onwards. And if there's any that are on between position 11 and 20, so on page 2 of Google SERPs, those are a prime candidate for making a few tweaks, making a few alterations, and really getting them higher up the SERPs, because there's a sort of scaling effect where it's easier to go from position 100 to position 50 than it is to go from position 11 to position 10. But by virtue of the fact that you're already at position 11, let's say, that means Google already sees that page as relevant for that type of content. So it's a sort of high rewards potential and low risk methodology. So once I've done that, I will just typically cross-reference with demand. So using the data that we saw before, get ideas of average searches per month to get an idea of what the main priority of the content needs to be, what kind of search results I need to look at, and in order to understand what we need to do to improve the content to get it ranking in the areas that matter. And then analysing competition. So we're going to go through a specific example in a second, but this is by far the most overlooked thing that a lot of people just seem to miss when it comes to SEO. Of if you know that there are specific terms that you want to rank for that are relevant for your content, you can get into a bit of a black hole trying to guess what Google might prioritize and might value. The easy answer is just look at the actual SERP and see what Google is serving, because that is what Google will prioritize. That is what it deems is relevant for that particular query. So yeah, in terms of identifying opportunities, we can see here, it's a bit of an abstract example and something that maybe on reflection I would have looked at some of the more specific ones, but we can see master's degree, this fictitious university, and I certainly hope there isn't a university somewhere called James University, because that would just be awful. But master's degree has 13,000 searches a month in the UK, estimated to get about 5 visits per month, but it ranks in position 13. So again, stone's throw from page 1. If we can get this page onto page 1, then we could see more of an uptick in terms of traffic received, potential, like eyeballs, getting in front of students, potentially leading to course sign-ups or registrations of interest, attending an open day, whatever your success metric is. So the next thing to do is just look at the existing results. So for that keyword, we can see there's a mix of, so there's a knowledge panel at the top, which is where Google tries to keep you in Google SERPs and serve you an answer immediately. We have some master's degree Wikipedia entry. We've got a few aggregators that will tend to slip into some results of this nature because the keyword is a little bit more tenuous in terms of intent. But it's not completely out of the realms of possibility that a university website could hold position 2, position 1 for these sorts of terms. So in terms of the next question for me from this is why? Why is the University of Northampton ranking so well? So this is an extension that I use to basically make really hard to find pieces of code a bit more actionable and a bit easier to see. It's called SEO Meta in One Click, I believe. Yeah, we can see, like, so they're using their heading tag structure to create a clear hierarchy to not only give people an idea of what is on offer, you know, popular degrees like Master of Business Administration, but they're also answering, well, do you cover distance learning? Do you cover how to apply? This is a really, you know, this heading tag structure goes on for like another 2 screenshots, but there's only so much room on Google Slides. Like, this is, I take one look at this and I understand completely why it's ranking so high. Like, this is answering a user's query. It's meeting a clear need. It's taking a primary keyword, but then asking all of the sort of fan out queries and the supplementary information around that as well, so that somebody that's in the market or thinking of doing a master's degree can arrive at this without much knowledge of what the University of Northampton offers, but get an idea of what it can do. So after you've done all this, it becomes about identifying content gaps both on your site but also with competitors. So as extensive as Northampton was there, I'm willing to bet that there are a few keywords that they are not targeting that have decent volume and are relevant to that SERP, which is a search engine result page. So that would be my first port of call. And then it just becomes a question of identifying available resources internally. Like, do you have capacity to make these sorts of changes? If so, what's the scale of them? Is it, you know, do you have a content team that you can liaise with, or a freelancer, or somebody that can help you with this? Or are you going to need to do a lot of this yourself? Because that will dictate the scale at which you can implement these sorts of things. But everything I've just shown you is not a huge lift in terms of difficult to do. And And then measuring the impact. Like, this is another crucial part where you can make all the changes you want, but if all you're looking at is ranking position, you're kind of missing a lot of the data. So I always track clicks, impressions, and average position in Google Search Console, but I'll supplement this with the actual first-party data from either Adobe Analytics or Google Analytics to get more of a picture of, well, how important is organic traffic to me and to this page? Are we growing? Are we standing still? Are we moving backwards? So in terms of applying these, I think the three principles are giving your content a clear structure, and using that to kind of curate how you structure your websites, and matching to intent. So intent is the kind of subtext of what Google deciphers as a user's intention behind that particular search. So if you hit these sort of 3 points, you will generally be off to a good start. And again, this is something that we do routinely at Gain, where I work, but you don't need an SEO agency to do this. You just need a bit of time and to know where to look. So the second kind of potential use case that I could see was with research visibility. So again, universities invest significantly into world-class research, but much of it is invisible online. And I should know, I'd look for some really obtuse academic papers and you try and Google them and it's rare they come up. You then have to brave it with JSTOR, and after 10 years in search, I still only kind of know how JSTOR works, just by virtue of it's a completely different beast. But much of it is invisible online. Again, academic publishing, by its very nature, will have to prioritize factual accuracy, peer review comments, all of these sorts of things, which can make it quite obtuse. It can make the outputs quite dense. It can lead to it being more difficult for people to find this sorts of information. But one of the key things in terms of improving visibility for your academics and their research, I think one area that we're going to go through is faculty profiles. So there are some good examples of these, but on the whole, they represent a bit of a missed opportunity from my perspective, both in terms of enriching your course content, like we saw on in the previous section, or like we were focusing on there, but also in terms of getting your expertise, your research, the research of your institutions out to that broader audience. So yeah, as a result, research struggles to reach its intended broader audience, and research investment doesn't achieve full public engagement potential. So how can we improve this? So again, we can leverage our expertise. So you have course experts at your institutions, all of whom, or the vast majority of whom, will have some sort of academic profile either on your site or on a third-party provider. I would strongly encourage anyone that is not on their institution's website to get onto their institution's website because of the authority reasons that we spoke about before. But then the second thing we can do is to connect these faculty profiles to relevant areas of the site. So all too often, if we think of a student that's searching for a philosophy degree, they might want to get a feel for, well, what sort of subjects are being taught as part of this? What kinds of area of philosophy, and who is going to be teaching me? What are their research interests? Like, that's an easy connection to make. And then relevance, like, this will be taken care of anyway, because, it's in everyone's best interest to make sure that their CV, whether it's online or offline, is up to date, is as relevant as it can be. Academics, including any recent publications, interviews, impact stories, like, all of these things help improve relevance significantly. And so just by way of a bit of an example, so we've got on the left profile A, and I've tried to anonymize these as much as possible, but profile A on the left-hand side, to be honest, I could have left that as it was and we still wouldn't have gotten a whole lot of information from that. There is literally nothing there other than a name, an office number, an email address, and a title, like an academic title. When Google sees something like that, it has no incentive to rank it it's not even about incentive. It has no content to be able to understand and then to rank to people that might be looking for information relevant to it. But if we contrast this with the profile on the right, we've got a full submenu navigation with career history, research outputs, teaching and supervision, projects, impacts, links out to their LinkedIn profile as well, which again provides external validation, that quality begets quality principle I was talking about earlier, where in the university they work, and their full bio. Like, this is a much, much, much richer profile page that gives a much bigger potential reach and potential audience for this academic, but also their research. You know, say somebody's Googling, a marine biology expert. If this page is being optimized properly, they will be able to say, I'm a marine biology research expert, this is why, and this is all my research outputs. For journalists looking for that sort of information, priceless, because within 2-3 clicks, they can get an idea of who they can talk to about a specialist subject. But even though I've just spent the past couple of minutes, really bigging up Profile B, it could be better. Mostly because it doesn't make use of what is one of the most powerful SEO strategies and approaches, internal linking. So internal linking is a way to connect pages within your website. So this is done both at a structural level, which is represented on the diagram here by the black lines. So this will be things like your footer navigation, your main menu navigation. All of those are sort of structural links. And Google does use those to understand more about the information on individual pages, but on a website as a whole as well. But you can also use contextual links. So again, that example I gave before, somebody looking for a philosophy degree program, but wanting to know more about who the lecturers are, who the teachers are, you could quite easily provide a contextual link from the course page to that academic's profile. You could even go by module. And again, that provides value for people searching for this sort of stuff, but it also gives Google a fuller picture of the type of information that's on your website more broadly. The more of these contextual links that you put in, and I should stress strategically and highly contextually, the more of a full picture it can get on what type of information is contained on specific pages. So the way I tend to approach this is by mapping. So doing a big audit and review of, well, what could I potentially connect to each other? The big standout for me and a quick win would be people teaching on specific courses in a given academic year, updating the course page to reflect that and updating the academic profile to point back in the other direction. Quick win, but you could do that as broadly or as narrowly as you want. Then it just becomes about connecting, so finding places to connect strategically, like again, giving in that contextual side of it. So looking for mentions in related blog posts on your site or news articles where you could say, Dr. So-and-so just completed this big project. That Dr. So-and-so name could be used as an internal link to his academic profile, which would then profile his own research. You could even link directly to the research that he's produced, the paper, the static URL of that. And then monitoring. So internal links are really, really valuable, really, spoiler alert there, really valuable and really helpful to Google, but if they are broken, so if an internal link points to a 404 page, or a page that doesn't load, or a page that redirects a bunch of times and points to something completely different, that will not help anyone whatsoever. So doing a semi-regular audit, I tend to aim for once a quarter, so once every 3 months, can just help you stay on top of things. But again, you can do this as broadly or as narrowly as you want. So this is kind of just a very top line ideal site structure, pulling together what we've talked about for the last sort of half an hour, 20 minutes or so. And it's literally just to show, there's all of these big structural links that we kind of need to have in place and are important from an SEO perspective, but really just to highlight the amount of detail and the amount of contextual information you can give Google just through internal linking. So, PhD modules, if it's a taught PhD, linking to faculty profile or linking to a faculty profile direct from one of these, you know, schools you can list through to research centres, but also, you know, school A. I guess the point of this slide is really just to communicate, if it's relevant and it provides added context, add it in. Like it will only benefit you. So in summary, and you'll be glad to know I'm wrapping up now. The challenge is pretty clear. Universities produce exceptional content. There's a huge opportunity to reach people, but typically they will go unseen. And SEO can really help. It's as simple as looking at what people are actually searching for on the internet, doing a little bit of research and analysis, but once you do 5 or 6 SERP reviews, you will start to see patterns emerge, and that means that you can scale this up exponentially if you want to. In terms of what you can change, page titles, heading tags, on-page heading structures, on-page content, internal links as well. Like those are all incredibly high-value things you can do from an SEO perspective. So long as it's aligned to search volume, then you're good. And it's important to remember that even though I've said a lot of dense technical jargon here, SEO is not just some dry technical thing. It's about enabling access, visibility, and making sure that your knowledge is being disseminated as far and wide and to as many relevant people as possible. So hopefully that's something that, you know, has jazzed you all up to start looking into this more when you return to your desks on Monday or whenever. But 3 things that I would do if I was in your position is, like I said, use Google Search Console, get access to this. It might sit with your dev team, your IT department, your marketing team if you have one. But someone somewhere should be able to give you access to that. If they turn around and say, I don't know what Google Search Console is, sign up for it. Work with them. It's really easy to implement, and the amount of data and the insights that it gives you is absolutely vital. For a free tool, I really can't say enough good things about it. Start researching keywords. So in terms of finding keyword volumes, there are a few free tools you can use, but if your university is doing any pay-per-click advertising, so PPC, then you will be able to get access to Google's Keyword Planner, which gives you a similar data set, and arguably more accurate data set than the one I used on the slides at the beginning of the talk. And this can just help you orient what it is you need to change your content to reflect. And then monitoring organic traffic. So, you know, look at your overall traffic mix in Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics and see what proportion of your traffic does organic currently drive. Is it actually pretty high and then you need to maintain and maybe try and grow it? Or is it really low and that represents a missed opportunity? I think that's, you know, the more data you have, the more prepared you are. So this is just a bit of a checklist, like a content checklist with some sort of potential templates you could use for different page types. It's nothing too in-depth, nothing too crazy. I think it's just hopefully something useful to get you started. I'll talk to Michael as well and make sure these slides get shared around after the event. But the thing I wanted to leave you all on is, if no one can find your content, then it can't help anyone. And for me, the university as an institution has always been about helping people and cultivating knowledge and pushing us forward as a civilization, if that's not too lofty. But great content deserves to be discovered. So I encourage all of you to take a bit of time and focus on SEO. And if you want to ask any questions or talk to me more about this, I'll be around for another couple of hours, and I hope you found this useful. Yeah. Any questions? Yeah.
With people using AI as a search engine, is it like different to optimize web pages, or does it still use the same sort of architecture to rank stuff?
That's a very good question, and it's on a lot of people's minds at the minute. It is a similar architecture in terms of parts of a document, by which I mean a web page, using relevancy signals within that. So still having a optimized page title and an optimized snippet of content will help an AI understand more of what that content is about. But the thing that we're starting to see in the industry now is, if Google thrives on context, LLMs thrive on as much context as you can give it. They are context machines in themselves. So for me, without getting too technical about it, because SEO can get incredibly dense and incredibly technical, and sometimes it needs to, but a lot of times it doesn't. But internal linking becomes even more important, because then instead of giving ChatGPT, say, a page in isolation, you're giving it a page in isolation with a bunch of links that it can go on to crawl with information about what that page might contain based on the anchor text that's being used. So it's a similar architecture, and ultimately Google bot, ChatGPT bot, Gemini bot, or whatever, they're all machines and they function in a relatively predictable way. The challenge with AI at the minute is it is a black box. It doesn't have the benefit of 20 plus years of research going into it like SEO does. So we're still learning, and it's difficult to learn from something that is growing and developing seemingly with each passing day. But I for now, it's more a case of measuring any traffic that you get from it, measuring its impact on your organic traffic or your paid traffic. But they are very similar systems.
I don't know if other people here have, it's their job to help researchers communicate their findings and their outputs and everything, but we still have the dilemma of the PDF.
Yep.
And it's quite difficult to convince people that PDFs are still, well, they're still around and they look like they're going to be around for a while.
Yeah.
Is it always going to be difficult to garner SEO information from PDFs? I'm always trying to convince people that everything that goes in the PDF should also be a web page and could be a really nice digital story, or could be another way of doing it. When will the PDF die? And if it's going to die, is it going to become more discoverable?
So to answer the first part, I think PDFs and cockroaches will be what survive any nuclear annihilation at the end of the world. For good reason. Like, they are incredibly useful. The number of unread and read PDFs I have on my personal computer's hard drive for the research I mentioned earlier is quite staggering. I do need to sit down and clear it out. But to answer the second point, compared to when I started 10 years ago, PDFs are much more discoverable. Google knows much more about it. The challenge is convincing Google that it's worth its time going into these PDFs and loading them, because even a company as big as Google, they still have to worry about what's called crawl budget, which is the amount of pages they can look at in a given window of time. And things like PDF and content that's loaded using JavaScript, those are resource intensive, so it cannot prioritize those. I think what I do tend to encourage clients to do is similar to what you say, including key pieces of information on a HTML page or on a static web page. But also within that, there are things you can do at a technical level, like including PDFs within an XML sitemap to give Google a harder signal for, we've got all this content here, can you please go and crawl it? And linking to that from what's called your robots.txt file can just help improve that visibility as well. But also, PDFs have metadata. Like, you can amend and edit the metadata of each PDF, including its title, description. I think you can give it a short snippet of content as well from memory. But all of those Google can and does use. So it's definitely worthwhile trying to tackle it. I think it's just about starting to treat PDFs more like web pages in their own right. Yeah.
A lot of what my team do is news articles,
Cool.
sort of events, research,
Yep.
Awareness days, especially awareness days, I guess. Say if it's Refugee Week,
Yep.
I often try and then Google and try and find the story, and it might be lots of other unis done the same thing but different content. I was just wondering, what's some of your advice around SEO in terms of news stories and what you can do, and especially headlines? And are there any sort of resources you can use that you can search headlines for SEO optimization?
Yeah, so news headlines are a tricky one unless you're dealing with a kind of semi-predictable event like your awareness days, awareness weeks. I would definitely do some keyword research around those and see what kinds of themes you can pick out that could help you both organize the news and events content on your site. So you could create a tag that lists out all of the pages that have content on that particular event, that particular piece of news. That could help improve organic visibility. Outside of that, I think in terms of trying to react to what is current, things like, and it's not directly related to SEO, but social listening tools can be quite helpful because those can give you more of a picture of what people are talking about online outside of Google. For the amount of proliferation that it does have, Google is still quite, people go onto it looking for very specific things instead of social, which can be a much more passive experience where you're looking at stuff and then you'll be prompted to look at something else and search something else. On that front as well, actually, if a social listening tool isn't feasible, TikTok a couple of years ago started publishing ads data. So you can actually, in the same way that Google Keyword Planner exists, there's a TikTok, I think it's like AdWords or something like that. That can be something quite helpful as well to look at potential topic ideas. But I think in the first instance, keyword research, looking at what works well and prioritizing repeatable events. So if you know that there's an awareness week that happens at roughly the same time every year, what I've done for a lot of my clients actually is look at the keywords related to that event and look at the search volume changes month by month by month. I did that because I have no life. I did that over a 15-year period. So I was able to predict when interest in certain keywords would peak, when they would trough, so that we could guide content production. So in your example, Refugee Awareness Week is every X week in the year. If you were to look at the search data over a long period of time, you could understand when you need to start pushing more of that type of content to your site to capitalize on the sudden interest. Because it's one thing publishing something when it's happening, but Google then still has to crawl it, index it, rank it. If you're doing that ahead of time, then when the interest spikes, Google will already know, oh, actually, this university website's written something on this. I think it's relevant. I'm going to serve it. So that's definitely something. And apologies, this is the last suggestion, I swear. Structured data, so schema markup. This can be a little bit intimidating, but it's actually very simple. It's basically a way to speak to search engines in their native language, to tell them what the information on a page is about. It's all human readable, don't worry. But you can mark up news articles on that. So if you mark up things like who wrote it, a bit about them, when it was published, whether or not it was peer reviewed, there's full documentation about the extent of the markup you can produce online. But using that markup will just, again, when Google sees that content, it will then be more inclined to see it as news content and serve it in things like news carousels when they switch over to live events on Google.